The emergency alarm screamed through the communication center on New Harmony. Yoon Ji-hai's hands shook as she stared at the readings on her screen. The numbers were impossible. 200 ships were heading straight for their peaceful colony. Elder Kim Dong-woo rushed into the room, his face pale with worry. "What is it, Ji-hai? What's wrong?" "Ships, Elder Kim, many ships. They're not from the Confederation." Ji-hai pointed at her screen. "They're coming fast. They'll be here in 3 days." Kim Dong-woo felt his heart sink. New Harmony was a farming colony on the edge of known space. They had no weapons, no military ships, just families who wanted to grow food and live in peace. "Send a message to the Confederation immediately," he ordered. "Tell them we need help." Ji-hai's fingers flew over the controls. She sent the distress signal on all official channels. Then she waited. And waited. Hours passed with no answer. "Elder Kim," she said quietly. "They're not responding." On the bridge of the lead alien ship, Warlord Vexthul studied the small human colony below. His silicon-based body gleamed under the ship's lights. To him, all carbon-based life was weak and worthless. "How many humans live on this world?" he asked his second-in-command. 50,000, Warlord. They have no military forces. No weapons of any importance. Vexthul smiled, showing crystal teeth. "Perfect. We will give them 3 days to leave. Then we will take their world and strip it clean." Back on New Harmony, panic spread through the colony. Parents held their children close. Farmers looked up at the sky, knowing death was coming from the stars. Kim Dong-woo called another emergency meeting. "The Confederation isn't coming," he told the frightened colonists. "They say our sector isn't important enough to defend." Angry voices filled the room. People shouted questions that had no good answers. How could they fight? Where could they run? Their ships were too slow and too few to save everyone. Young Lee Min-soo, Kim's son, stood up. "What if we try to contact someone else? Anyone who might help?" "Who would come?" asked Mrs. Park, holding her baby. "If the Confederation won't help us, who will?" Ji-hai had been working on the communications equipment all day. "I've been thinking," she said. "What if we boost our signal? Make it stronger than ever before?" "How?" Kim Dong-woo asked. "I can connect all our farming equipment to the main transmitter. Every piece of electronic equipment on the planet." It might work. It was a desperate plan. Ji-hai and Min-soo worked through the night, connecting cables and rerouting power. Other colonists helped however they could. They took apart tractors, mining equipment, even children's toys that had electronic parts. By morning, they had built something that was part desperation and part miracle. A transmitter powerful enough to reach far beyond their small corner of space. Testing, Ji-hai spoke into the microphone. "This is New Harmony Colony in the Kepler 442 system. We are under attack. 50,000 civilians need immediate help. Please, if anyone can hear this, we have children here. We need help." The message went out on every frequency they could manage. It traveled through space at the speed of light, carrying the fear and hope of an entire world, 15 light-years away. Captain Lee Tae-min was reviewing supply reports on his ship. Thunder's Wrath. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. His ship was on routine patrol, checking trade routes and looking for pirates. "Captain," his communications officer, Han Da-un, called out. "I'm picking up something strange. It's a distress signal, but it's much stronger than normal." Lee Tae-min walked over to her station. "Let me hear it." The voice that came through the speakers was young and scared. "A girl asking for help, begging for someone to save her people. Where's it coming from?" Lee Tae-min asked. "Kepler 442 system. That's way out on the rim, sir. About 15 light-years from here." Lee Tae-min frowned. "Any Confederation forces in that area?" Han Da-un checked her records. "No, sir. The Confederation pulled out of that sector 6 months ago, said it wasn't worth defending." On the bridge, the other officers gathered around. Commander Jang Hyun-woo looked at the star charts. "Sir, if there's trouble in that system, it's not really our problem. We're just a single ship." "How many people did she say?" Lee Tae-min asked. 50,000, sir, including children." Lee Tae-min closed his eyes. He thought about his own family back on Earth. His daughter was about the same age as the girl on the radio. "Sir?" Jang Hyun-woo asked. "What are your orders?" Lee Tae-min looked at his crew. Good people, all of them. They had signed up to protect humanity, not just the parts that some politicians thought were important. "Plot a course for Kepler 442, he said quietly. "Sir, we have no orders to go there. If we leave our patrol route without permission, there could be serious trouble." Commander Jang, did you hear that message? Yes, sir, I did. Then you know what we have to do. Lee Taemin's voice grew stronger. We don't abandon our own. Not ever. The crew looked at each other. They all knew what this meant. They could be court-martialed for leaving their assigned patrol. They could lose their careers. But they also knew their captain was right. All hands prepare for jump to hyperspace, Lee Taemin announced over the ship's speakers. We have people to save. Thunder's Wrath turned toward the Kepler 442 system and engaged its faster-than-light drive. One human ship racing to help 50,000 people who had nowhere else to turn. On New Harmony, HFY kept broadcasting their message. She didn't know if anyone was listening. She didn't know if help would come. But she kept talking into the darkness, hoping that somewhere, someone cared enough to answer. The alien ships grew closer with each hour. Soon Warlord Vexthal would make his demand. Leave or die. But for the first time in days, HFY felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, someone had heard their call for help. Captain Lee Taemin called his senior officers to the main meeting room. The holographic display showed the Kepler 442 system and the massive enemy fleet approaching New Harmony. Commander Jang Hyun-woo pointed at the red dots on the screen. 200 ships, Captain. All of them bigger than us. These are Draktar warships. Their plasma weapons can cut through our shields like paper. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho shook his head. I've read the reports about these aliens. Their ships have energy shields that nothing can get through, and they don't take prisoners. Pilot Kang Soo-jin crossed her arms. So what are you saying? That we should turn around and run? I'm saying we need to be realistic, Jang Hyun-woo replied. We're one ship against 200. The math doesn't work. Lee Taemin stayed quiet, studying the data. Dr. Park So-young, their science officer, spoke up. I've been looking at the colony information. New Harmony has 50,000 people. 15,000 of them are children under the age of 16. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. If they turned around and left, those children would die. What about evacuation? Asked Han Do-eun. Can we get the colonists out? Choi Min-ho checked his tablet. Their ships are old cargo haulers and farming vessels. They'd need weeks to evacuate everyone, and they don't have weeks. The Draktar will be there in 36 hours. Lee Tae-min finally spoke. What do we have that they don't? Sir? Jang Hyun-woo asked. Our advantages. What makes us different from them? Choi Min-ho thought for a moment. Well, we have the new quantum torpedo systems. And the adaptive shields that can change frequency. Oh, and the Thunder Drive. What's the Thunder Drive again? Kang Soo-jin asked. Experimental short-range jump system. Lets us make tiny hyperspace hops during battle. We can appear, attack, and disappear before they can hit us back. Dr. Park So-young nodded. I've been studying Draktar battle tactics. They fight in large formations. Very organized, very predictable. They expect their enemies to do the same. But we don't fight like that, Lee Tae-min said, understanding her point. Exactly. Humans are good at thinking fast and changing plans. We adapt. They follow rules. Jang Hyun-woo still looked worried. Even with our advantages, Captain, the odds are terrible. If we do this, we might all die. Lee Taemin looked at each of his officers. These were good people who had trusted him with their lives. He had no right to ask them to throw those lives away. But he also knew what kind of person he was and what kind of people they were. I want to be clear about something, he said. I'm not ordering anyone to do this. If we go to Kepler 442, we're probably not coming back. This isn't a suicide mission, but it's close. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the nearest station. No questions asked. No shame in it, nobody moved. Are you all crazy? He asked with a small smile. Probably, Kang Soo-jin said. But I signed up to protect people, not to play it safe. Han Do-eun nodded. My little brother lives on a colony world. If he called for help, I'd want someone to come. One by one, the officers agreed. They would go to New Harmony. They would face impossible odds. They would try to save 50,000 strangers because it was the right thing to do. All right then, Lee Taemin said. We need a plan. Choi, I want you to modify our weapons. Make them do things they weren't designed to do. Sir, be creative. The Draktar have fought the Confederation forces for years. They know how those ships fight. They don't know how we fight because we're going to make it up as we go. Choi Min-ho's eyes lit up. I have some ideas. What if we link the quantum torpedoes to the Thunder Drive? We could fire them through micro-jumps, make them appear inside their shields. Can you do that? I can try. Give me 12 hours. Dr. Park, I want everything you can find about Draktar biology and technology. Any weakness, any flaw, anything we can use. Already working on it, Captain. Kang, start training the fighter pilots on new attack patterns. Nothing conventional. I want them confused about what we're doing. Yes, sir. Should I tell them what we're really up against? Lee Taemin thought about that. Tell them the truth. They deserve to know. But also tell them that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human child on that planet. The meeting ended and the officers went to work. All over Thunder's Wrath, crew members prepared for a battle they probably couldn't win. But they worked with determination, not fear. In the engine room, Choi Min-ho and his team took apart perfectly good equipment to build weapons that existed only in their imagination. They connected quantum field generators to hyperspace projectors, creating something that had never been tested. In the science lab, Dr. Park So-young studied every piece of information about the Draktar Empire. She learned about their silicon-based biology, their crystal matrix technology, and their rigid military culture. On the flight deck, Kang Soo-jin taught her pilots to think in 3 dimensions instead of 2. Space wasn't like fighting on a planet's surface. There was no up or down, no left or right. Every direction was a possible attack vector. Han Da-eun worked with the communications team to create a network that would let them coordinate with the colonists. If they were going to fight for New Harmony, the people there needed to help however they could. As Thunder's Wrath raced toward the battle, Lee Taemin stood alone in his quarters. He looked at a picture of his family and wondered if he would ever see them again. But he also thought about the young woman who had sent the distress signal. She had asked for help and he had answered. That was what humans did. They didn't abandon their own, not ever. The ship's computer announced their arrival in the Kepler 442 system in 6 hours. 6 hours until they would face the largest fleet in Draktar history with nothing but courage, creativity, and the refusal to let innocent people die. Lee Taemin put the picture away and went back to the bridge. His crew was ready. Their ship was ready. Now they would find out if being human was enough to win a war. Thunder's Wrath dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Lee Taemin stared at the sight before him. The Draktar fleet was enormous. Their ships looked like dark crystals floating in space, each one 3 times larger than his vessel. My God, whispered Commander Jang Hyun-woo. There are so many of them. 212 ships confirmed, Han Da-eun reported. They're in standard battle formation around New Harmony. Lee Taemin activated the communication system. New Harmony Colony, this is Captain Lee Taemin of the Earthship Thunder's Wrath. We received your distress signal. The response came immediately. It was the same young voice from the recording, but now it was filled with disbelief and hope. Captain Lee, you actually came? Oh, thank you so much. What's your name, miss? Yoon-ji-hee, sir. I'm the one who sent the signal. Well done, Ji-hai. Now listen carefully. We're going to help you, but we need your people to help us. Can you connect me with your leader? A new voice came through the speakers. This is Elder Kim Dong-woo. Captain, I don't know how to thank you, but you must understand. There are over 200 enemy ships. You're just one ship. Sometimes one ship is enough, Lee Taemin said. Elder Kim, I need you to organize your people. We're going to use your farming equipment to help us fight. Our farming equipment? But how? Dr. Park So-young took over the communication. Elder Kim, this is Dr. Park. Your tractors, mining machines, and heavy equipment all have metal in them. We can use them to confuse the enemy sensors and create false targets. On the planet below, Kim Dong-woo was confused but hopeful. His son Lee Min-soo was already thinking about the possibilities. Father, if we spread our equipment across the surface and power them up, it might look like we have weapons we don't have. Meanwhile, on the Draktar flagship, Warlord Vexthal was studying the human ship. It was so small compared to his mighty fleet. How could one tiny vessel dare to challenge him? Sub-Commander Thekmore, he called to his second in command. What do you know about this human ship? Thekmore checked his information banks. It appears to be a patrol vessel, Warlord. Lightly armed, designed for reconnaissance, no match for even our smallest warship. Then why is it here? Humans are supposed to be practical. This makes no sense. Perhaps they are here to negotiate our surrender terms. Vexthal laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Send them a message. Tell them they have 1 hour to leave our space or we will destroy them along with the planet. The message reached Thunder's Wrath a few minutes later, Lee Taemin listened to the alien's demands, then smiled grimly. Handa-un. Open a channel to the Draktar flagship. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Lee Taemin to the Draktar fleet. You are threatening innocent civilians. Leave this system immediately or we will remove you by force. The silence that followed was broken by alien laughter. Vexthul couldn't believe what he had heard. One small ship threatening his entire fleet? Human, you must be insane. We have 200 ships. You have one. Yes, Lee Taemin replied calmly. But we have something you don't. What is that? We're human. The communication ended. On both sides, final preparations began. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho reported to the bridge. Captain, the weapon modifications are complete. We have quantum torpedoes that can phase shift through their shields, and I've connected the thunder drive to our targeting system. What does that mean? Asked Kang Soo-jin. It means we can appear anywhere in space, fire our weapons, and disappear before they can hit us back. Like a ghost that can fight. Dr. Park So-young had more good news. I found something in the Draktar biological data. They're silicon-based, which means specific sound frequencies can disrupt their nervous systems. If we can generate the right harmonic patterns, we can turn their own technology against them, Lee Taemin finished. Excellent work, everyone. On New Harmony, the colonists worked frantically to prepare for battle. Lee Min-soo had organized teams to spread equipment across the planet's surface. Every tractor, every mining drill, every piece of electronic equipment was positioned to create sensor signatures that might confuse the enemy. Ji-hai worked with her brother Yoon Sang-woo to create a planet-wide communication network. They connected every radio, every computer, every communication device on New Harmony into one big system. This is amazing, Ji-hai, Sang-woo said as they finished the connections. We can see everything happening in space and relay it to the human ship. Elder Kim Dong-woo watched his people work together. Farmers and engineers, teachers and mechanics all working as one team to defend their home. He felt proud of them, and grateful to the humans who had come to help. The Draktar fleet began to move into attack position. Their formations were perfect, like a textbook example of how space fleets should fight. Warlord Vexthul was confident. This would be over quickly. Then Thunder's wrath simply vanished. Where did it go? Thekmor demanded. Before anyone could answer, the human ship appeared directly above the Draktar flagship. At point-blank range, it fired every weapon it had, then disappeared again. Vexthul's ship shook under the impact. Damage reports flooded in. The humans had actually hurt them. Find them! Vexthul roared. All ships, spread out and find that ship. But Thunder's wrath was already gone, appearing on the far side of the fleet. This time it attacked 3 ships at once, using some kind of energy beam that chained from one target to another. Then it vanished again. This is impossible, Thekmor said. Ships can't jump such short distances. Hyperspace doesn't work that way. Apparently human ships do work that way. Vexthul replied grimly. The battle had begun. 1 human ship against 200 alien warships. But for the first time in his career, Warlord Vexthul wasn't certain he would win. These humans didn't fight like any enemy he had ever faced. They appeared, struck, and vanished like phantoms. They used tactics that made no sense, weapons that shouldn't exist, and a determination that seemed to defy logic itself. The art of war, as humans understood it, was about to teach the Draktar Empire a lesson they would never forget. The space around New Harmony had become a storm of light and death. Thunder's wrath appeared and disappeared like a deadly ghost, striking the Draktar fleet from impossible angles. Captain Lee Taemin stood on his bridge, coordinating the attack with calm precision. Jump point 7 Alpha, he ordered. Fire quantum torpedoes, then immediate withdrawal. The ship vanished and reappeared behind a group of enemy cruisers. Choi Min-ho's modified weapons phased right through their shields and exploded inside their hulls. 3 alien ships died in bright flashes before Thunder's wrath disappeared again. Incredible, Han De-yoon called out. The colonists are reporting 17 enemy ships destroyed, 23 damaged. But the victory came with a price. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Hull breach on Deck 4, reported Sergeant Oh Kyung-soo from the Marine section. The thunder drive is overheating. We can't keep this up much longer. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho wiped sweat from his forehead. Captain, I'm pushing the engines beyond their limits. The quantum field generators are starting to fail. On New Harmony, Ji-hai and her brother Sang-woo watched the battle through their improvised sensor network. The human ship was fighting like nothing they had ever seen, but it was taking damage. Look at this, Sang-woo pointed at his screen. The big alien ships are changing formation. They're trying to surround the human ship. Ji-hai opened her communication channel. Thunder's Wrath, this is Ji-hai. The enemy fleet is moving into a cage pattern. They want to trap you. Lee Taemin's voice came back immediately. Thank you, Ji-hai, we see it. Tell your people to get ready for Phase 2. What's Phase 2? She asked. You'll know when you see it. On the Draktar flagship, Warlord Vexthal was furious. His perfect fleet formation was in ruins. The human ship kept appearing where it wasn't supposed to be, doing things that should have been impossible. Sub-Commander Thekmore, how many ships have we lost? 21 destroyed, 34 damaged, Warlord. But we're learning their patterns. They can't keep jumping forever. Vexthal studied the tactical display. Begin orbital bombardment of the planet. If we can't catch this ship, we'll force it to come to us. The largest Draktar ships turned their massive weapons toward New Harmony. Energy beams began raining down from space, turning forests into fire and farmland into glass. On the planet's surface, Elder Kim Dong-woo watched his world burning. Captain Lee, he called desperately, they're destroying everything. Lee Taemin faced the hardest decision of his life. He could continue hit-and-run attacks, but the planet would be destroyed while he fought. Or he could move to protect New Harmony directly, which would make Thunder's Wrath an easy target. All hands prepare for defensive pattern Omega, he announced. We're going to shield the planet. Thunder's Wrath appeared directly above New Harmony's main city, spreading its shield generators to protect the people below. But this meant the ship couldn't jump away. It was trapped, taking the full force of the alien attack. Explosions rocked the ship. The lights flickered. Damage reports flooded in from every section. Shields at 30%, Jang Hyun-woo reported. Hull breaches on 6 decks, Oh Kyung-soo added. Dr. Park So-young looked up from her science station. Captain, I have an idea. The harmonic frequency I discovered. What if we broadcast it through the planet's communication network? What would that do? It might disrupt the Draktar nervous systems, make them sick, confused, buy us time. Do it! Dr. Park worked frantically with Ji-hai on the planet below. They connected the harmonic generator to every radio tower, every communication dish, every electronic device on New Harmony. Broadcasting now, Ji-hai reported. The effect was immediate. On Draktar ships throughout the fleet, silicon-based aliens began writhing in pain. The specific frequency attacked their neural networks like a virus, making it impossible to think clearly or coordinate their attacks. But the victory was short-lived. Warlord Vexthal, protected in his shielded command center, ordered his ships to retreat beyond the harmonic field's range and continue bombardment from a distance. Thunder's Wrath was badly damaged and couldn't pursue. Lee Taemin looked at his crew, these brave people who had followed him into certain death to save strangers. Sir, Han Da-eun said quietly, I'm receiving a priority communication from Earth Fleet Command. Put it through. The face of Admiral Pak Young-jae appeared on the main screen. Captain Lee, what the hell do you think you're doing? Saving lives, sir. You abandoned your patrol route without orders. You've engaged an enemy fleet without authorization. This is grounds for court-martial. Lee Taemin stood straight despite his exhaustion. Admiral, 50,000 civilians called for help. We answered. If that's wrong, then I'll face the consequences. Admiral Pak was quiet for a moment. Behind him, other officers whispered urgently. Finally, he spoke again. Captain Lee, your actions have created a political crisis. The Confederation is demanding we withdraw and apologize to the Draktar Empire. And what is Earth's response to that demand? The Admiral almost smiled. Earth's response, Captain, is currently traveling toward your position at maximum speed. Try to stay alive for another 6 hours. The communication ended. Lee Taemin looked at his crew with new hope. You heard the Admiral. Help is coming. We just need to hold out a little longer. But the Draktar weren't finished. As Thunder's Wrath struggled to repair its systems, enemy sensors detected new hyperspace signatures approaching the system. More ships coming, Thekmore reported. 37 vessels. They're Draktar. Warlord Kethzan's fleet arrived in perfect formation. Kethzan was Vexthal's greatest rival, and he had come to claim the victory that Vexthal couldn't achieve alone. Brother Vexthal, came the mocking communication. I heard you needed help with one small human ship. Vexthal's rage burned like plasma. This is my conquest, Kethzan. Take your ships and leave. The High Command sent me to ensure success. Now we have over 250 ships. Even the humans cannot fight those odds. On New Harmony, Ji-Hai watched the new alien ships arrive and felt her heart sink. Captain Lee, there are more of them now. So many more. Lee Taemin's voice came back, calm and determined as ever. Ji-Hai, I want you to remember something. We came here because someone called for help. We stayed because it was right. And now we're going to finish this because that's what humans do. Thunder's Wrath rose from its protective position above the planet. The ship was damaged, her crew was exhausted, but they weren't defeated. Not while there were people counting on them to fight. The real battle was about to begin. And somewhere in hyperspace, Earth's answer to the crisis was racing toward New Harmony at the speed of light. Thunder had been unleashed. Now it was time to see what happened when Thunder called its brothers home. Thunder's Wrath was dying. Sparks flew from damaged control panels as Captain Lee Taemin prepared for what might be his final battle. The combined Draktar fleets had formed a perfect sphere around New Harmony, with over 250 ships ready to destroy anything that moved. Captain, Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho reported, the Thunder drive is completely offline. We have maybe 6 quantum torpedoes left and our shields are running on emergency power. Commander Jang Hyun-woo looked at the tactical display with grim determination. If we're going to make a final attack, sir, now would be the time. Before they get organized, Lee Taemin nodded. He opened a channel to the entire ship. All hands, this is the captain. We came here to save innocent people. We've done our best and we've shown these aliens that humans don't abandon their own. If this is our last fight, then we'll make it count. On the planet below, Ji-Hai watched through her sensors as Thunder's Wrath began its final attack run toward the enemy flagship. She knew the brave humans who had answered her call were about to die, and tears ran down her face. Thank you, she whispered into her microphone. Thank you for coming. Warlord Vexthul smiled as he watched the damaged human ship approaching. Finally, they will die with honor. All ships prepare to fire on my command. But before he could give the order, space itself seemed to tear open. The first ship to emerge from hyperspace was massive, 3 times larger than any Draktar vessel. The UES Righteous Fury led a fleet of 300 human warships into the Kepler 442 system. Their arrival created a storm of energy that lit up the darkness. This is Fleet Admiral Shin Jae-wook of the Earth Deep Space Fleet, came the broadcast on all frequencies. Any hostile forces in this system have 30 seconds to surrender or be destroyed. On Thunder's Wrath, the crew stared in amazement. Captain Nam Seok-jin's voice came over their communication system. Thunder's Wrath, this is Captain Nam of the EDF Stalwart. Stand down and let us take over. You've done enough. Lee Taemin felt relief wash over him. Negative, Captain Nam, we started this fight. We'll help you finish it. Fleet Admiral Shin Jae-wook's voice boomed across space. Draktar fleet, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Warlord Kethzan, always arrogant, responded with typical alien pride. We do not fear you, humans. We are the Draktar Empire. We do not retreat. Then you will learn why that's a mistake, Shin Jae-wook replied. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, using tactics that the Draktar had never seen before. Ships appeared and disappeared using advanced jump drives. Weapons that bent space and time tore through alien hulls like paper. Captain Nam Seok-jin led the carrier groups in complex maneuvers that made Thunder's Wrath's earlier attacks look simple. Fighter squadrons swarmed between the larger ships, striking weak points with surgical precision. Colonel Bae In-soo's Marines boarded damaged Draktar vessels, proving that humans were just as deadly in close combat as they were in space battles. The aliens learned that humans could fight in any environment against any odds, but the real shock came when more ships arrived. The Galactic Confederation fleet, led by various alien species, dropped out of hyperspace with perfect timing, just after the battle was decided. This is Admiral Korthek of the Confederation fleet, came the pompous announcement. We claim jurisdiction over this engagement under Confederation law. Fleet Admiral Shin Jae-wook's response became legendary throughout the galaxy. Our people called for help. We answered. Your authority ends where your courage failed to begin. The words hit like a physical blow. Every species in the Confederation knew it was true. They had abandoned the human colony when it needed help most. On New Harmony, the colonists watched in wonder as the human fleet systematically dismantled the Draktar Empire's finest warships. Elder Kim Dong-woo stood with his son Lee Min-soo and looked up at the sky. They came, Min-soo said in amazement. All of them came. Because one ship answered our call, Kim Dong-woo replied. One captain who refused to let us die alone. Ji-hye was crying again, but these were tears of joy. Her desperate message had not only saved her people, it had brought the entire human fleet across the galaxy to protect strangers they had never met. The battle turned into a rout. Warlord Vexthul's flagship was surrounded by human ships, its weapons disabled, its crew defeated. Warlord Kethazan tried to retreat, but Captain Nam's forces cut off his escape route. Surrender now, Lee Tae-min broadcast to both Draktar commanders, or we will finish what you started. For the first time in their history, Draktar warlords surrendered to an enemy. Their proud empire had met an opponent they couldn't understand, couldn't predict, and couldn't defeat. As the alien fleets limped away under human escort, Fleet Admiral Shin Jae-wook opened a private channel to Thunder's wrath. Captain Lee, your actions have created quite a stir back home. Some politicians want to court-martial you for disobeying orders. Lee Tae-min was too tired to care about politics. I understand, Admiral. However, Shin Jae-wook continued, President Han Min-jung has a different view. She's declaring the formation of the Human Colonial Defense Pact. Any human settlement that calls for help will receive it, regardless of distance or political approval. The meaning was clear. Never again would human colonies be abandoned to face extinction alone. There's something else, Captain. Your battle recordings have been broadcast throughout the galaxy. Do you know what other species are calling you? Lee Tae-min smiled tiredly. I'm almost afraid to ask. Thunder warriors. They're saying humans are the species that fights impossible battles and wins them through pure determination. As Thunder's wrath docked with the fleet's repair ships, Lee Tae-min looked at his crew. They had faced impossible odds and survived. More importantly, they had saved 50,000 innocent people from certain death. Sir, Han Da-eun called from her station. I'm receiving multiple communication requests. Other colonies, other species. They all want to know if humans will help them too. Lee Tae-min thought about that. Maybe this was just the beginning. Maybe humanity's role in the galaxy was to be the ones who answered when others called for help. Tell them we'll consider each request, he said. But remind them of something important. What's that, sir? When Thunder calls, Thunder answers. And we are the Thunder.